Betrayal. It is a wound that cuts deep into the soul. Whether it is the betrayal of trust by a loved one, maybe a friend, or even just a colleague. But the pain feels overwhelming. But you are not alone in this journey. Today, let us turn into the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita, a scripture that has offered solace and direction for centuries to help us heal and move forward with strength and peace. In verse 13 of chapter 2, Lord Krishna explains, just as the soul passes through childhood, youth, and old age, it also transitions into another body. The wise are not deluded by these changes. My friend, this verse here reminds us of the impermanence of life, which includes the relationships, events that we all experience. Betrayal feels so devastating because we often cling to the expectations and permanence in the relationships. But when we learn to accept that change is inevitable, then, my friend, it will become easier to release the pain you are holding onto. Often, betrayal stems from human flaws, which can be anything, like maybe greed, maybe insecurity, or it can even be as simple as misunderstanding. In verse 21 of chapter 16, Krishna identifies desire, anger, and greed as the three gates to hell. He says, these lead to the downfall of the soul and should be abandoned. When someone betrays us, it is usually because they are trapped in one of these destructive emotions. Recognizing this doesn't justify their actions, although, but it helps us separate their behavior from our own self-worth. Their betrayal says more about them than it would say about you. Let me help you understand this with a very simple example. Imagine a close friend of yours breaks your trust by sharing a personal secret. Initially, it will feel like an attack on your character or judgment. But Krishna's teachings help us understand that their action might stem from their own insecurity or desire for attention, not a reflection of your value as a person. Anger is a natural response to betrayal, but holding on to it only and only deepens the wound. In verse 15 of chapter 12, Krishna reminds us that one who neither rejoices, nor hates, nor grieves, nor desires, who renounces both good and evil, is dear to me. Now, here this does not mean that you need to suppress your emotion, but it simply means that you need to process them well and learn to let them go. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. But the result is only going to be you. Yes, my friend, you who will suffer. I'll advise you to write down your feelings in a journal. Trust me, it is of great help. You just need to express your anger, your sadness, and whatever confusion is in your head on that piece of paper. Then, as an act of release, tear up the page or burn it safely, symbolizing your willingness to let go. In verse 10 of chapter 5, Krishna tries to explain us that how detachment does not mean that we stop caring. It simply means that we need to free ourselves from being controlled by the external circumstances. Betrayal loses its grip on us when we stop attaching our happiness to the action of others. Have you ever seen a tree in the season of autumn? The way it sheds its leaves? Have you ever seen any tree resist this? I'm sure you haven't. Why? Because it trusts in the renewal that spring will bring. Similarly, my friend, we can let go of those who betray us, trusting that life will bring new and, very important, healthier connections. Forgiveness is one of the most challenging but liberating steps. In verse 66 of chapter 18, Krishna says, "Abandon all varieties of dharma and simply surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear." Now, don't confuse the surrender with weakness. Instead, it is about releasing the burden of bitterness. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciling with the person who betrayed you. It just means choosing peace over anger in your heart. I want you to close your eyes and visualize the person who betrayed you. Imagine placing their actions in a box and handing it over to a higher power. Now say to yourself, "I release this for my peace and not theirs." Because, my friend, your peace is the most important thing you need to worry about. In verse 5 of chapter 6, Krishna advises, "Let a person lift themselves by their own efforts and not degrade themselves. The self is the friend of the self, and the self is also the enemy of the self." This reminds us that healing and moving forward is our responsibility. Betrayal teaches us valuable lessons about boundaries, about self-respect, and most important, self-love. Although I do understand it is natural to feel hesitant about trusting again. But, my friend, I'll advise you to not let one betrayal make you lose faith in all humanity. Instead, what you can do is you can start small, which means you can build trust in yourself first by keeping promises to yourself. Promises as simple as maybe exercising, meditating, or pursuing a passion. And when you are ready, allow trust to grow gradually into new relationships. Remember, betrayal is a painful chapter, but it does not have to define your story. The Bhagavad Gita teaches us to rise above the pain, find inner peace, and move forward with grace. Remember, the power to heal lies within you. And with Krishna's wisdom as your guide, you are never alone. If this video helped you, do consider subscribing the channel and share it with anyone who is in need. Until next time, stay blessed and keep smiling.